Okay, let's get started. Welcome all. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tanea Plowman-Kohler of TPK Feng Shui and Design, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today as we talk about the bedroom and how to make it into your everyday oasis. I've spent the last 15 years immersed in the art and science of spaces, how they are designed, laid out, constructed, what works, and most often what doesn't work. I've explored this field from so many different angles, from the art and beauty of color and the ancient traditions of feng shui and vastu, and the more Western study of interior design, architectural drafting, space design, and organization. And I found that my study of psychology, of the human psyche, is always intertwined in how we live in our spaces. In all my education and experience, one thing has become really clear to me: the spaces in which we spend the vast majority of our lives, our homes and our workplaces, have a really big impact on our happiness, our productivity, and our physical, emotional, and psychological well-being. Put another way, our spaces affect us profoundly. The more you get to know me, the more you will hear me say this. The spaces where you spend your life affect you profoundly. When you are happy in your home, you are better able to nurture your relationships, to maintain good health, and you are more successful in your career. I work with people who live in all kinds of different spaces, from single rooms to apartments and townhomes to large single family homes. And I'd like to point out kind of the extreme sides of what I do, from working on the plans for someone who is building a new house to rearranging the furniture in a single room. Because in both instances, the results you get are palpable. Yes, when you're remodeling or building, you can make some really fantastic changes to the details of a plan that make significant improvements to the functionality of a space, but you can feel remarkable differences to the energy of a space when you rearrange a single room. So excuse the dark photographs on the screen, but look at how much more open this space feels when you enter it. In the after pictures, the light actually penetrates into the space further without the couch blocking it. Many of the spaces I work in are fantastically beautiful, and my clients do love them. And that's what tends to unite the people I work with: this love of, or a desire to fall back in love with their space. And sometimes the desire to find a space that they really love. Even when you do love your space, it's possible that you want to live in your space a bit differently. A lot of the time, all the stuff in your space gets in the way of being able to really appreciate the space itself. Like in this room, which feels weighed down with the stuff. I'm so excited to talk with you tonight about the bedroom, because focusing on the bedroom is a really wonderful way to make a big impact on your quality of life, on the enjoyment that you reap from your space, and on the relationships that you have. There are very few places where you can direct this laser focus and get such far-reaching results. I imagine you're here today because you're interested in maintaining or attracting a solid relationship for the long term, one that can navigate the turbulent waters that come your way in life. You may be here because you're interested in improving the quality of your sleep. In my experience, this isn't the flashy thing that draws people to me, but I can assure you that there are opportunities in all of our bedrooms for improving the layout and what surrounds us to improve how you feel every morning when you wake up. You might be here because at some point you've experienced the power of feng shui and what it can do for you, and you're interested in looking at that in your bedroom. I'd like to take a little poll actually to help me better understand where you are today. So I'm going to load a poll up onto the screen. You should see on your screen a poll that that's asking you what interested you in this workshop, and you can pick any that apply. You can pick more than one. And okay, so you know, the first one is you could use help in your bedroom with an influx of new energy or new ideas. The next option is you feel like you could sleep more soundly and wake up feeling more rested and more rejuvenated. The third is your relationship could use a little jolt of energy. No one usually wants to raise their hand on that one. Might be a little too personal early on in the talk, but you know, we're relatively anonymous here, so The next one is looking for an intimate relationship in your life. And then you're just interested in optimizing the feng shui in your space. And the last option is you'd like a retreat from the daily chaos. I'm not 100% sure the poll feature is working because I don't see anything coming in. Maybe there's a little delay tonight in that as well. But take a look at that. I'm going to keep that running just in case it lets it come in. All of those are really fantastic reasons to be here tonight because we'll talk specifically about how to create a space that better supports your intimate relationships and also one that is relaxing and free from the little stressors that can keep your brain and your body from fully decompressing at night, which can negatively affect your health. And all of those things will improve the feng shui and the flow in your space. I can't create an oasis for each of you in the hour we have tonight, but I will give you as much information as I can, things you can act on right away. And when you're interested in having help as you delve deeper into your space, I'll let you know how you can take that next step. So we are all on a number of spectrums. Let's see. And the spectrums I'm looking at tonight on the screen are a spectrum of how much stuff you have. So not much stuff or a lot of stuff. And then, clutter doesn't bug me or clutter drives me crazy. I'm very attached to my things. I'm not attached to my things. And I'm not aware of how attached I am, and I am aware of how attached I am, right? Everyone has a different experience in their own home, in their own space, with their own family, and at different points in their life. Even for me, this is my life's work, and I used to be pretty far on the having a lot of stuff extreme, and on the being very attached to my things, and on the not being aware of how attached I was. It's all a learning experience. So this workshop is not for you if you're not feeling open-minded about your space and the stuff that surrounds you. If you're not ready to look at your space and your things with new eyes, to shift both mentally and physically in your spaces to figure out a new way of being, then you probably won't get much out of this because you're not ready. Most of us, when we arrive home, we're looking to decompress, whatever that looks like for you, to be able to fully relax and allow your body and your mind a break. Unfortunately, arriving home doesn't always feel like that. Just seeing the poll numbers come in. Thank you, Tess. Thank you, Chris. Interested in being able to relax and rest at home and interested in feng shui and design. Okay, so unfortunately, when you arrive home and you don't feel that ability to decompress for whatever reason, because there's so much stuff around you and there's a lot to do because of all that stuff potentially, or you don't feel supported by your space and at ease, then when does your body really have that opportunity to decompress, right? If it can't do it at home, when can you do that? And when you don't have that chance, particularly while you sleep or while you should be sleeping, you carry the weight of those little stressors around with you in your daily life. So clearly this photograph is not of any of our bedrooms, but it is an oasis. It oozes relaxation like you're on vacation. The bed's not even made, but we could care less. That's not what catches our attention. Your bedroom, like this one, should be a refuge where you love to retreat. I love to talk about bedrooms because they are a place in the home where our efforts have a significant impact on our lives, significant and visible. In feng shui, the bedroom is one of the most important areas in the home, and that is the case for a few reasons. You spend a third of your life in bed sleeping, a third of your life. While you sleep, your body is at its most vulnerable state. There are so many environmental factors that can cause your body stress while you sleep, and we'll talk about those tonight. Those stressors negatively affect the quality of your sleep, making it difficult to go to sleep at night, difficult to get back to sleep when you wake up, and they can leave you feeling tired when you wake up in the morning. When your sleep is compromised for some time, you don't always realize you should feel rejuvenated, fresh, alive when you wake up. And that happens to parents a lot. There are a lot of reasons why parents don't sleep as well as they could that are not always related to their space, but are more related to their kids, which can be related to kids' rooms and parents' rooms, but it's more complicated than that. And sometimes I find that it's not until you drill down a bit into the sleep piece that people really realize how poorly they're sleeping. Most people, when I ask them how well they sleep, they say, oh, pretty well. And then when I ask them if they have a hard time falling asleep, if they wake up in the middle of the night, they say, oh yeah. I have a client who actually said just that, oh, I sleep great. And then when we dug down deeper, she said, actually, I'm up a lot at night. I have a hard time getting back to sleep. And then she said, I haven't slept soundly since my kids were born. And her kids are 8, 12, and 14. So parenthood can complicate how well we sleep. And sleep is complicated. Clearly, there are many factors that play a part in how well we all sleep. And tonight, we'll look at remedying the environmental factors that contribute to poor sleep. So I want you to think about, how well do you sleep? Do you wake up frequently in the night, at least once or twice? Do you have a hard time getting back to sleep at any point in the night? Is your mind full of thoughts as you try to fall asleep? How well does your partner sleep? A lot of times, one person in a relationship will sleep really well and one person won't. Is your sex life what you want it to be? If any of these areas could improve, it's time to take a close look at what's surrounding you. So sleep problems are incredibly common. The CDC states that insufficient sleep is a public health epidemic that causes difficulty concentrating, increased stress, and a whole host of other problems. There are a lot of causes for this, and I'm not promising that I can solve all your sleep problems or your child's sleep problems, but tonight I will tell you how to make simple changes to your bedroom that have the potential to drastically improve the quality of your sleep. Because so much hinges on consistently getting a good night of sleep. For those of you who struggle with this, I probably don't have to remind you. Your health goes downhill in your physical body and also in your mental well-being. Your sanity will be compromised when you sleep poorly. And that's very connected to your outlook in life, whether it's positive or negative. Your ability to be effective at work, to be a productive member of society, to bring in money for your family. Your energy levels throughout the entire day are compromised when you sleep poorly. Your relationship with the people around you, including your spouse, your partner, or a desired relationship, and your patience with your children, with the people around you, with your partner. It affects the energy, all of the energy that you're giving out into the world around you. When you're short on sleep and you don't have these things, it's close to impossible to be present and positive. The other really important area in your life that bedrooms have a huge effect on is on your intimate relationships. To be honest, that relationship piece, or the idea that a home or a space has the ability to support a relationship or to make it more difficult, that was what got me really fascinated with feng shui. My first exposure to feng shui was a housewarming gift from my mom, Feng Shui for Dummies. It's really quite a fantastic overview. I was fresh out of college setting up the first home I called my own, and I devoured that book. Everything I read made so much sense. As I read it, I thought constantly of my childhood home, and it helped me come to terms with my parents' marriage, which had crumbled during my middle and high school years. It was like I could read the events of our family life on the floor plan of that house. I want to explain that a little bit. So I moved to Haley, Idaho with my family in 1987. My parents bought a house from the bank for $30,000. It was in terrible shape. It hadn't been lived in for some time, and you could feel not only that, but also the state of mind the people had been in who had lived there before us. Us kids, we hated the house, but my parents bought it. It's what they could afford, and they began a decade-long remodel of the space. My dad worked full-time, and then he would come home and work on the house late into the night and on the weekends. I imagine that was a really difficult time for my parents. 3 young kids, both working full-time, trying to make our house into a home. And they did a fantastic job. The interior was my dad's beautiful woodwork, from the kitchen to the stair railings to the nook for the dining table. And yet the home was not able to support them in getting ahead financially, in staying healthy, or in their relationship. I tell you all of this so that you can begin to think about spaces differently, because I'm convinced that the house I grew up in, despite the tremendous efforts of my loving parents, was working against us in some serious ways. In feng shui, you place what is called the bagua map down over the floor plan for your home. You can place it over a single room as well, like your bedroom. We'll talk about just your bedroom tonight. So you could place that map right on your bedroom. And you see on the screen kind of the most simplified form of that bagua map. And basically what that map does is it tells you where to concentrate your intentions for different areas of your life. It doesn't really 100% matter how you place that map. In feng shui, you know, there are a couple different styles of feng shui, and you place it differently on your space depending on the style, and it doesn't 100% matter. What matters is that in your home, you have a space where you put your intentions for your relationship or for your partnership, and that space represents what you want in that partnership. So in the style of feng shui that I practice, the bottom of that map where you see the knowledge, career, and helpers or helpful people area of your life, that's where you place your front door. So you can see a little gap in the black at the bottom, and that's where your front door would go if it's in the middle of your house. If it's over to the right side, it would be in your helpful people area, etc. We're not going to get into this all that much tonight. That's for another workshop. But the point is that every area of your home relates to an aspect of your life. And in the home that I grew up in, the abundance or wealth area was totally missing, as it's shown in this slide. This can be abundance of anything, really, not just money, an abundance of love, stability, balance, health. It's a really important area. Behind the home that I grew up in, rather than having a hill or a rise to help support us, something that literally had our back, there was a steep downward slope where all the energy could escape. The center of your home relates to your health. It's ideal to have a nice open space here. That's not the case in all homes. A lot of times you find closets that are pretty well packed in the center of homes, but ideally you have a nice open space. And in my home, our bathroom was in the center, and in every bathroom is the toilet, which is the strongest drain of energy in any house, physical drain, also energetic, but physically it's the largest drain leaving your house. That is the kind of energy that you want to counteract so that it doesn't drain away your health, be it physical, mental, or even the health of a relationship. Our front door was a placeholder, a proper entrance, but also inconvenient. We never used it. Guests never used it. This is quite common in homes, especially those with attached garages. The front door is neglected by all but strangers. I have a few friends who don't use their front doors at all, and they know that anytime somebody comes to their front door, it's a stranger, it's a marketer, it's somebody who wants to, you know, convince them to find God. And that's really common in homes. But in the feng shui tradition, the front door is a really meaningful part of your home. They call it the mouth of qi, or where all the energy in your life enters. If your front door never opens, it's difficult to allow that life force, that energy into your life. Feng Shui describes an important concept. There's a really kind of key concept in Feng Shui called the commanding position. You want your couch, your desk, your stove, your bed, any place where you spend time and want to be able to fully relax, decompress, or to completely focus, like at a desk, to be in the commanding position. This means that from where you sit in bed, you can easily see the door into the room, the main door into the room, and that the path of the door doesn't cross the bed. You don't have to turn your body in order to see what's coming. Being in the commanding position, you're able to put all your energy into the task at hand, be it cooking, working, sleeping, relaxing. When your back is to the door, you are constantly hearing little sounds and wondering and checking what's happening behind you, consciously and subconsciously, and that makes it really difficult to sleep well. The main bedroom in the house that I grew up in was in the relationship area of our home, which is a great place for it, but it only had one possible orientation for the bed. The headboard sat on the same wall in between both the doors that you could enter through. For a master bed to sit in that position in the relationship area with your back to both doors, it's not surprising that the couple will literally feel surprised by what their relationship brings, which is a problem. After we got a bit older and wanted our own rooms as kids, my parents moved to a different bedroom. It was a more private space up on the 3rd floor, but the space had really severely sloped ceilings. Energy moves more quickly down a sloped ceiling, and spending a significant amount of time underneath a sloped ceiling, like sleeping in this bed, for example, can negatively affect your health and make it feel like the weight of the world is resting on your shoulders. You can see in this space, someone has placed something above the bed to try to make it feel less like the ceiling is coming down on you, which is a really great intuitive thing to do. This can be a helpful cure when you're faced with a difficult space. These factors won't necessarily negatively affect your life immediately, but the day in, day out living with these little stressors for years, that's what causes big problems in the end, or exacerbates problems that already existed. So after 18 years of marriage and more than a decade in the house, my parents divorced. And while I wouldn't say the house was the cause of the split, it's clear to me now that the house was not supporting them nearly as fully as it could have, and that it was even exacerbating their problems. All of the issues I mentioned can be fixed. You can use cures and intention to remedy them, but you can't fix a problem you don't know about. So we'll talk about how to fix those problems you most commonly see in the bedroom. Again, I tell you all of this because I want it to be crystal clear how your environment affects your consciousness. The way you design and use your home should not be accidental. The choices you can make, there are choices that you can make about setting up your bedroom that will support your most important relationships rather than create divides. Because the costs to those relationship struggles are obvious, right? Not only the emotional costs of a marriage breaking apart for the two people in that relationship, but what I experienced firsthand, the negative impact it has on kids, which is significant. And then the financial burden that places on maintaining two homes rather than one, the splitting apart of community, friends who feel compelled to pick a side. The costs are clearly extensive, both emotionally and financially. I work with a lot of people who are experiencing some form of struggle in their core relationship with a partner, or who are really having a hard time finding a core relationship, a significant other, an intimate relationship. A lot of the people who I work with who are having relationship problems are seeking counseling or thinking about seeing someone, which I always think is a good route to go when you're experiencing problems. But one home I worked in, the couple, they had been in counseling for some amount of time, but they weren't really experiencing any shift in their relationship. The wife started working with me because the clutter drove her husband crazy, but it didn't bug her. When she started clearing out her bedroom, she started to think about what was in that space, what those things represented. Was it stagnant? Was it way too cluttered? And as soon as she started working on her bedroom, her husband noticed a shift, a change, and made a point to say that he thought they were doing better. Really, nothing had changed except she had begun to work on the space in her bedroom. And not only that, but he realized that it wasn't just his wife's stuff filling up the space, but he had a bunch of stuff lined up against the wall on his side of the bed, and he got right to work on putting that stuff away, not because she had asked, but because he saw her doing the work, and he realized how good it made the space feel. Their bedroom also happened to be in their relationship area of their home, and so all the energy she had begun to put into that space, she had done so intentionally, knowing this is my relationship area. What kind of energy do I want to put into this space? So that was also the positive energy she was infusing into their relationship as she worked. And that's the thing about a space. It can hold you back. When you experience problems in your home, when you have a fight or there's tension, the space has a certain amount of memory. It collects the energy you've expressed. A space can also be set up in a way that exacerbates problems. And so with all of your best intentions, you go see a therapist, you feel like you make really great progress in the session, and then you get back home and you fall into the same dynamic. It's difficult to act differently, to experience new things, to change your behavior in a space that is static, stagnant, and reinforcing your old behavior. This slide may seem simplistic, but the more stuff you clear out of any space, the more clarity and energy you gain in your life. I also work with people who would describe their relationship as rock solid. It is interesting though, once we really delve deep into decluttering and living in their space intentionally, most people realize they are gaining more depth in their relationships at the same time. They realize things had been a bit stagnant in relation to where they are now, or a bit too much on the surface, only having time to talk about planning or the kids, and the relationship had become rooted in the past rather than here in the present. All of our things, our stuff, it's all from our past, right? Something we were gifted or got however many years ago or just last month. Being surrounded by all that stuff makes it difficult to live in the present and to have a space that supports you thinking about who you want to be in the future. I'll tell you the story of some close friends of ours who would come out and visit us every year. They have a daughter about the same age as our son, and we adore all three of them. They have always been really open with us about the challenges they have in their relationship. And being the feng shui practitioner that I am, and knowing that I could probably help them, and selfishly wanting them to stand the test of time so that we could continue to gather together as families, I inquired about their bedroom to see if it could better support them. And it turned out that in their bedroom, on her side of the bed, was your typical nightstand with too many books and a lamp and sometimes her laptop. And his side of the bed, in place of a nightstand, was the dog bed. Everything you can imagine feng shui saying about that sort of setup would be accurate. There was no balance between the sides of the bed, and you could feel this play out in their relationship, that lack of balance. A lot of the time, he felt like he was in the doghouse in their relationship. She felt like he wasn't pulling enough weight. So I encouraged him to even the space out in order to represent two equals in their relationship and help them figure out how they could accomplish this and still have the dog bed in their room where it needed to be. And the next year, when they came out, we had a similar conversation, and it turned out he hadn't taken any action in the space. I mean, that's not entirely fair. They had both cleaned out the workbooks from under the bed, and she had emptied under her side of the bed entirely. He had culled a bit, but no bedside table to provide some intentional balance in the relationship. And it became clear how representative the space was of where they were in their relationship. From my point of view, it seemed like she was taking actions to support their relationship, and he was not so much. He would talk about wanting things to improve, but his actions didn't support his words. And it's not like he's a total clot or emotionally unavailable. They are very busy and active people, and they were always out doing awesome things, teaching their daughter how to cross country and downhill ski, hiking in the mountains, signing up for 5 cross-country ski races in a season, and attending lots of weddings. But all of that left not very much time to maintain the stuff in their house. Their basement gear room was packed full of old baby stuff. The decision whether or not to keep it seemed tied to this bigger question of whether or not they would stay together. And it turns out when he arrived home, he felt so overwhelmed by all the things to do, all the stuff he saw, that he never wanted to stay there. So out they would roam. And I totally get this. I've been there. You know, getting outside and doing the things that you love is really important. But it's all a balance, right? Putting the time and energy into your own home represents the energy you're willing to put into yourself and your relationship. Your space reflects your own body and life. So it's only when you decide it's time to put in that effort, that's when you'll reap the rewards. It's not going to happen just by thinking about it. How much time you spend attending to your home, giving it love and attention, directly relates to how well it will support you in your life. This concept helped me define my life's work. I don't want to tell you what to do in your home. I want to teach you how you can design your space to support your desires and your goals. And so these friends of ours, some months later, we finally made it out to visit them. And sure enough, the dog bed was still the only thing next to his bed. While we were there, we got into their bedroom a bit more and began to look at what was in there. And it was, you know, if it was representing their desired relationship. They culled significantly. They pulled out the extraneous stuff from the space. And whenever you do this, it stirs up the energy. It acts the same way as a detox does in your body, like a seasonal detox. When you give your body the chance to eliminate toxins by simplifying what you put into it, for a while, your body will do just that. It eliminates toxins really effectively, and it will show signs of all of these toxins leaving your body. So it will seem really odd that while you're putting all this like good, simple food into your body, you're seeing so much toxic stuff come up. And your home is just like this. You start accessing the backs of closets that haven't seen the light of day in a long time. And with it, you are also accessing all of that old energy that's trapped back there. And for these friends of ours, in the end, that simplification of their space, that willingness to look into those dark closets and face what was inside, was part of what enabled them to realize they weren't right together, something that had been an inkling of a thought in their relationship for years. It turns out when he told his parents they were splitting, they weren't surprised in the least. It was something they had been expecting for a long time. So while fixing their space could have inspired similar inspiration in their relationship, Their inability to do so was indicative of where they were in the relationship and the fact that a lot of those problems existed before they even moved into this space to begin with. Poor feng shui will exacerbate existing problems, and after enough time, it can create problems that hadn't yet existed. The fact that space is also memory means that you want to look at who lived in this space before you and where they moved when they moved out. Were they moving up in life? Were they moving down? Were they getting a divorce? Were they moving into a larger home? Were they moving to a place where they really wanted to be? Because that energy, it remains there, and it can be hard to counteract that. That's why when you move into a home, it's really nice to clear the space in, you know, any number of different ways. But looking at your space brings that clarity to know what's important in your life. And that will very often be the glue that keeps people committed to a meaningful relationship, or keeps people, or allows somebody to find a meaningful relationship that they've been looking for, because all of a sudden they have all this clarity in their life. But I won't lie and say that it will fix all of your relationship problems. What it will do is remind you why you're together in the first place. It will make it really clear how fixable your problems are. It will make it clear what you want in a relationship, what your bottom line is. And so while I never wish for that outcome, that splitting, sometimes that clarity brings a couple the confidence to accept that life will be better apart. So let's talk about the purpose of your bedroom. Your bedroom is for sleeping and having sex, and that's it. It's not for reading late into the night. It's certainly not for working. It's not the place to put your desk or your exercise equipment. Occasionally there are other, oops, oh, my slides went crazy there. Occasionally there are other calming activities that are totally okay to do in your room. Rolling out of bed to meditate. Let's get back to where I was. To meditate or stretch, it's totally fine to be in your room, right? A chair to sit in and read before you head to bed at night, great. But guard your bed and your bedroom like you would a good night of sleep. One problem with today's standard master bedroom is that it can be quite large, and it would feel awkward if you didn't fill up that space somehow. We're really good at doing that, humans and Americans, you know, other cultures as well, but at filling up space. And so many of my clients have begun to do lots of other things in their bedrooms, store lots of things in their bedrooms. And these activities and this stuff rarely contribute to a relaxing environment in which to sleep. Your bedroom is a reflection of your relationship. And when you fill it up with unnecessary stuff, that's indicative of a lot of clutter, a lot of unnecessary things, chatter going on in your relationship as well. So before we can talk about what to do in your space, you have to get clear on what you want in your relationship or in a desired relationship. So what do you want? I want you to take a moment to think about, or even to write this down, because that can make it so much more powerful. It's really powerful to think about your intentions in life, and it takes it one step further to write it down. And then again, a step further to share that with someone. So I want you to think or write down what you want out of your loving relationship this year, or out of a desired loving relationship. It could be that you want to attract a relationship. That's fine. Take a moment to get clear on what you want out of your intimate relationship. Okay, it's time to sit up and listen, because we are at the meat of the conversation, the feng shui and the design of your bedroom, both what to watch out for and what to aim for. First, we'll talk about the big picture, the layout of your space, the shell. And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty detail of all the stuff that populates your room. Now, you may not have control over all of these things. You may not be able to achieve this ideal setup, or you may already be in this ideal setup. That would be fantastic. But if you're not able to achieve this perfect setup, that's okay. Most of the bedrooms I've seen in my line of work don't fit this complete bill of health. So if that's what you're thinking as we go through these big picture items, don't worry. You can compromise, you can place cures and fix some of the issues, but these are the things to look out for. Within the big picture, we're going to talk about the energy that is overly active in your bedroom. We'll talk about correct positioning of your bed in the commanding position. We'll talk about what's hanging over your bed, artwork, ceiling fans, chandeliers. And we'll talk about balancing the two sides of your bed to promote equality. I advised someone about her space who had a treadmill directly next to her bed. This is not a picture of her room. Her treadmill was literally, there was a small bedside table and then a treadmill. She had young children, and she found that the only way she was able to still exercise at that point in life was to run on the treadmill while her toddler was napping upstairs. And so after we walked through her space, she said, "So what should I be doing differently?" And I asked her how well she slept. She said, "Oh, the normal stuff. I wake up at night and I think about work and my mental to-do list." Her mind was on a midnight treadmill, and that was normal. And that's not a recipe for a well-rested person. Overly active energy in your bedroom makes it very difficult to sleep soundly. Exercise equipment obviously falls into this category, as do bright colors. The orange that you see in this room is way too bright and active for a bedroom. As you may expect, you want more muted colors. Earth tones are really great in a bedroom. Anything that feels sensual, nothing too bright, or it can cause difficulty sleeping. Excessive mirrors are also very active. They reflect and bounce energy around the room. Mirrors that reflect you in bed are also representative of other people coming into your relationship, which is never a great thing for a lasting commitment. I have a friend who had mirrored closet doors like this. They're way more common than I would like in a particular kind of decade of design. And when she went to sleep at night, she would imagine putting the mirrors to sleep as well, which worked for her. You can also hang curtains in front of them. Ideally, every bed is able to be in that commanding position. So again, that means that the path of the doorway shouldn't cross your bed, and you should be able to see where somebody would enter. You should be able to see the door from where you sit in bed. You shouldn't have your back to it. Windows can be a bit tricky in the bedroom. Sometimes you'd like to move your bed around to be in the commanding position, but you have windows on that wall. And windows over your bed, unless they're high up on the wall, don't allow your body to fully relax at night, because it seems like someone could climb right in them, because they probably could. And so the picture on the right shows a taller window, and that's okay. It's not perfect, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. And the picture on the left shows a huge window behind that bed, and there's nothing supporting that bed. There's no headboard even. So lots of mirrors and large mirrors are not great in the bedroom, but if you're unable to put your bed in that commanding position, you can use a mirror so that it reflects the doorway from where you sit in bed. Just make sure it doesn't reflect you while you're sitting in bed. So when you sit or lie down in bed, you should be able to see the mirror, which would show you the view of the door. So let's talk about what's above and behind our heads. Beams. When a beam is directly above where you sleep, it can compromise your health. The air that is moving along the ceiling, it hits that beam and falls directly down on you, as you can see in that diagram. It may not cause problems initially, but when your body is exposed to that every night, it can create health problems. And when the beam divides two people in bed, it can cause divides in your relationship. The beams in this picture on the right I find particularly offensive because they are faux beams. They're these huge, large faux beams. They don't even have to be there in the bedroom. And clearly this bedroom is enormous, and they're trying to make the space seem less like a banquet hall and more cozy. You know, they're really beautiful beams, but they're not ideal in the bedroom. Sloped ceilings, we talked about, create similar problems. And, you know, other things that can hang over your head, like I mentioned, that are not ideal. You see a chandelier in this picture. It's not actually directly over the bed, I don't think, but a chandelier over your bed is not totally ideal. Ceiling fans create this cutting energy that, again, it's those little stressors that get you every night that are problematic. So what to do about the problem? Anything that hangs over your bed, obviously, if you can remove it, but a lot of the time that's not possible. And so you want to energetically lighten the beam. So there are different ways that you could do that. In feng shui, a lot of the time they use a flute to kind of lighten that energy. And I almost never use that here because it doesn't mean much to me and to the people that I work with. You really want to use something that's meaningful to you, something that seems light to you. You know, I live and work a lot up in the mountains here, and there's a lot of wildlife. And so sometimes people will put feathers, like a feather on that beam to say, to say, I'm making this beam lighter. You can put a canopy of fabric over your bed to hide the beam and change the energy above you, like we saw with the sloped ceiling. Artwork is something else that people tend to hang over their headboard. And when I used to live in California, it was accepted that no one placed anything over their bed, unless an earthquake come knock it on you while you're asleep. So large, heavy, or really active artwork does not do well on a wall behind your bed. In this picture, you see this kind of radiating sun out of this mirror above the bed, and that's really active energy. That's all those points are pointing out and shooting out energy from there. That's not a good piece of artwork to hang above your bed. I prefer not to hang anything above your bed. That being said, some people really like to. Anything that is energetically light. Some people, I've had a client who hung prayer flags above her bed, and that's fine. But I think really artwork can generally find other places to live. Tall dressers and bookshelves, like you see in this bedroom, they're not literally over our heads, but they feel like they could fall on us, and they seem like these large, dark, scary objects in the middle of the night, particularly when they get filled up with stuff, and then stuff gets placed on top of them, which inevitably happens when you have that storage, right? It's going to get filled. And so ideally, you don't have anything tall in your bedroom. If you have dressers in your bedroom, ideally, they're just waist height. And every bedroom should have some form of solid headboard. Not a headboard with metal bars, which seems prison-like, but a solid headboard. This energetically has your back in a relationship. It's like a solid foundation. The other thing that I want to mention that I don't have a slide of tonight is the bathroom energy. Again, we'll go back to the toilet. And what you don't want is you don't want your headboard and a toilet drain to share the same wall. So if your bathroom were on the other side of your bedroom, on the other side of that wall, and your toilet was against that same wall as your bed, it can make it really difficult to sleep because, again, it's that really big physical and energetic drain that kind of pulls the energy down in your house. So you don't want that to be behind your headboard either. We've already touched on how important it is to balance each side of the bed, to promote equality in your relationship. I have a friend who has a husband who works as an engineer on a large ship for weeks at a time, and then he's home for an equal amount of time. And she was really feeling his absence even more strongly at one point, and she listened to one of my workshops and realized that her husband's side of the bed, his bedside table, looked completely neglected, stagnant, not at all like her side of the bed, right? Because nobody had touched it. Nobody had been home, literally. So she cleaned it off, and she put a book there for him and some chapstick and a picture of the two of them together. And she said that the change was immediate. Now, even when he's away, she looks there and feels his presence much more than she did previously. So now that we know the ideal layout in a bedroom, let's talk about all the stuff we put into our rooms, because this stuff can have as big an impact on your relationships or your ability to find a relationship and on your sleep and on your state of mind as can the layout in your room. So the great news in this area, in this category of stuff, is that you can, if you choose to, control what you put into your bedroom and what you don't. You may not be able to fully control the layout, but you have control over your stuff. So I want us all to do a short individual reflection. So close your eyes and picture something in your bedroom that doesn't need to be there. I imagine each of us can identify at least one thing that doesn't need to live there. How does that thing make you feel when you think about it? Feel into that for a moment. I know that when I have something in a space that doesn't feel right, every time I see it, I think, you should live somewhere else. I'm looking at that thing and thinking, you should be somewhere else. You should live somewhere else. That's my mantra, the story in my head, the energy I'm putting into the space around me. You should live somewhere else. It's really not a good mantra to have, particularly while you're in your bedroom. You don't want to put out that energy of like, you should live somewhere else, because who knows if your partner is going to feel that energy, right? So now picture something In your bedroom, I want you to close your eyes again and picture something that you love and have there for a specific reason. It could be a piece of art, a piece of furniture, a wall color, an object. How does that make you feel? For me, it's like a smile is welling up from so deep inside me. I couldn't stop that glow of happiness if I tried. And imagine if that was the only energy going into your bedroom, surrounding you in your relationship with your partner. Okay, open your eyes. So the idea of having things in your bedroom that don't belong, it makes me think of an aunt of mine. And I looked at her space with her some years back, and in her bedroom, she had these two large, dark, kind of 70s style faux wood dressers, not unlike these. And they didn't really seem like her style. And it turns out that they belonged to my grandma, her mom, and she didn't like them at all, my aunt. And they were utility pieces. They were holding overflow clothing that didn't fit in the walk-in closet. And she didn't feel like she could just get rid of them, both because they were being used and also because they were technically family heirlooms, sort of, but man, not the kind of family heirloom you really want to keep. So every time my aunt walked into her adult bedroom, maybe in her conscious mind, maybe in her subconscious, she thought of her mother, and then immediately how much she disliked the pieces and felt some sort of obligation to keep them, right? So her mom, this dislike and obligation, and those were the thoughts. Those thoughts are not what you want to be thinking every time you walk into your bedroom. When you dislike something in your space but keep it out of some form of obligation, some reason that makes it difficult to part with, that's the energy you're radiating into your space, that obligation, that difficulty. And my guess is that when my grandma owned the dressers, they were also kind of overflowing with clothing, because furniture tends to have a muscle memory, if you will. If they had that stagnant, overwhelmed energy of being too full with their last owner or not opened very often, that energy stays with them. It's like they're pre-programmed to collect and be stagnant. They've been like that for so many years, it's their comfort zone. So I'm not advocating that you get rid of furniture that you find useful. However, I do find that as my clients really dig into the process of decluttering, they find so much stuff around them that does not bring them joy that they are able to release, that often they find they don't have a use anymore for those extra dressers in the bedroom, that they're unnecessarily creating stagnant space. So I want to take one more poll, if I can get it to pull up here. Pull up. Let's see. And I want to see if any of you have heard of Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, or the KonMari Method. Let me start that poll for you, see if that'll work. KonMari, as she's known to her clients, she's a professional organizer from Japan, and her book is a bestseller in Japan and now here in the States as well. And her techniques are innovative and incredibly effective. You sort by category, not by location. You start with the easiest stuff, your clothing, and then move on to the more difficult things, your photographs or sentimental stuff. So I see some people out there have read it. And her sole criteria is, does this bring you joy? I use this method with my clients, and by the time we get to the bedroom, they've begun to see how powerful this method is at clarifying exactly what brings you joy. And most of the time that means that folks have cleared out many large bags, garbage bags full of clothing, which you can donate or give to friends, and that also feels good, and it's really fun and inspiring. And they're ready to clear out their bedrooms as well. Yeah, so that's interesting. Clothing is not my easiest stuff. I actually hear quite a few people saying that. So the webinar was frozen. I apologize for that. Do type into the chat bar now if you're unable to hear me at any point. Let me know that, but it seems like it's working right now, so that's great. So, so let's talk about the stuff in your bedroom. First, we like to find and utilize storage wherever we can. As KonMari says, storage experts are hoarders. And so in the homes I work in, there is almost always stuff stored under the bed. I stored stuff under my bed long after I knew it was a really bad idea. And as a kid, you know, we all worried about the monsters under our beds, but I would say that all the stuff that we keep under our beds can create more havoc in our lives than any monster. You are literally sleeping on top of whatever is down there. In this image, there is a really innovative drawer that is just perfect for shoes, but that means that all the places you have ever walked in those shoes, that's the energy that you're sleeping on top of. Talk about active energies like the treadmill. I've had a client who stored their old taxes there, a client that stored an old baby crib, and her youngest child was 8 and she wasn't planning on having any more. It's just kind of living there. My client with the treadmill, she stored her emergency earthquake preparedness kit under her bed. This was down in San Francisco where it's supposed to be at hand. You know, emergency kits and paperwork are energetically very active. When the space is clear and the energy is able to flow all around your bed, it allows for a clear mind while you sleep. So if you must store something down there, you can store extra sheets or blankets, which are energetically, you know, conducive to sleep, but ideally leave it open. And then onto the clutter, the stuff that populates your room, the photographs, the tchotchkes, the books and magazines. The picture of this bedroom is one that was set up to look exactly this way, right? It's a stock image for Benjamin Moore, and they're trying to make it look like a populated bedroom that looks attractive and appealing. But all I can see is all this stuff, all the storage spaces to put more stuff. This is a lot of energy to surround you while you sleep. One woman that I worked with, excuse the blurry photograph, it's the only one I could find, but I think it's a really powerful photograph, so I wanted to use it. So she had this self-proclaimed Jenga puzzle of books on her bedside table, which you might be able to see, even though it's not clear there. The clothing there that you see, she was still in the midst of going through her clothing, so that didn't always live there, but everything else, the dressers, you know, shoved together there, layered with photographs and tchotchkes, the stacks of books, those lived there day in and day out. That's where she would place her books because she thought if she didn't, she wouldn't get around to reading them. And when she went through and cleared out everything there, she found a Christmas catalog from 1997 at the bottom of that pile of books on her bedside table. Clearly, she wasn't getting around to reading those books, even though she put them out in her field of vision, and she had every intention of doing so. This is her room now and her bedside table, and which she was really proud of for obvious reasons. And how much more relaxing is that space? How much more conducive is that to sleep? Let's take a look at what all of those things represent in your space. So a huge stack of books you intend to read but haven't remind you every night of all the things you haven't yet accomplished. A limited number of photographs of you and your partner are just fine in the bedroom, but photographs are images of you in the past. They don't always support your future self. In general, photographs of friends and family shouldn't have a place in the bedroom. If you don't have a partner and you want a romantic relationship, you can put artwork in your bedroom and in your relationship area of your home. And you want to make sure that it is artwork that represents pairs of things, birds, people, trees, whatever it is. Begin to group things in pairs rather than in singletons or triples. That's true for any room, not just if you're looking for a relationship, but for anyone. In general, when your bedroom is cluttered, it's easy for your relationship to be a little messy or muddled, to have a lot of clutter that gets in the way of that essence, that true reason for being. Okay, so the last category of stuff that is important to talk about when we talk about bedrooms and getting good sleep and promoting healthy relationships is electronics and televisions, which can not only clutter a space, but the screens have a particular form of active energy associated with them. So in this picture is a really extreme example, and I don't want the hilarity of this picture and this bedroom to make light of the fact that electronics in the bedroom are a really big problem. A lot of people have a hard time with this. I have clients whose husbands sleep poorly, but they're not ready to question whether or not to have a TV in the bedroom, not ready to not fall asleep to the TV playing, which is a lot more common than you might imagine. Electronics are even more troublesome, if you can imagine that. So the ones, especially the ones connected to Wi-Fi. Most people, when I begin working with them, they use their cell phones as alarm clocks. My client with the treadmill also had her laptop recharge station in her bedroom. But a study in 2007 found that electromagnetic signals from cell phones created significant difficulties in falling asleep, contributing to the start of larger problems like depression and hypertension. And scientists have also begun to find that these electromagnetic signals also affect brain function, fetal development, fertility. So Wi-Fi is hard to avoid, and you can affect change in your own home, though, by turning off your Wi-Fi at night and not storing your cell phone or your laptop on your body or in your bedroom. In your bedroom itself, you want to try to have as few electronics as possible. Anything that plugs in, really. I use a battery-operated alarm clock. So here's what I recommend in order to make an oasis right now in your space. You want to shift any beds or furniture that you need to in kind of that big picture department. Because when you move the large things, it stirs up big energy and it can really inspire further change. And that might mean that you're like sliding your bed away from the wall in order to create equal sides of the bed, right? It doesn't have to be a huge shift, but moving those big pieces can create a big shift. So in this bedroom, we got the bed out of the path of the doorway and into the commanding position, even though it seemed tight and not totally possible. You can't really tell from the photograph, but it was a little tight. And then, you know, you look at the stuff in this picture. The before picture, obviously, it wasn't a cluttered bedroom, right? There's not a lot of stuff in the picture. But when you look at the after picture, the bedroom is even simpler now. There are fewer things. For some of my students who are making their bedroom oases, I have them box up all their stuff by category, all of your tchotchkes in one box, all of your photos in another, your books in another, and take them out of your bedroom. When your room has only what you need in it, your bed, your bedside tables, your lamps, etc., then you very carefully consider what you want in that space, which photos, which tchotchkes. You know, everyone has a different amount of stuff they want in their room. And that's a very personal thing. There's not like a right amount of stuff. But once you feel that joy and realize that you can feel that in your space all the time by being surrounded only by things that bring you joy, it's really easy to only want those joyful items in your room and in your home. So for my students, when we get to those boxes later in the process, you know, we get to them later in the process when we finish the easy stuff and it's time to go through the harder stuff. So it might not make sense for you to go to this extreme, but I do challenge you all to only keep things in your bedroom that have a specific reason to be there, to remove all the extraneous stuff and then repopulate your room only with the things you love or need and the things that represent what you want in your relationship. So for example, if you want passion in your relationship, you might put 2 candles to help light that flame. Ideally, you use those candles and you want to place them side by side. Don't separate them like in this photograph. You want to place them together to represent, togetherness. If you want stability in your relationship, you might put a solid rock or a statue, something that really grounds the energy. This is a great time to start looking at your space and your things with new eyes, to really put your intentions into your space and the things that you love. Let's look at my bedroom as an example. I love the space in my bedroom. I love the colors. Color choice is really personal. Not everyone would love it, but I do. I love my bed. I love the fabrics. And I'm happy to show this to you because while this space is clutter-free, I want to point out that it's not this perfectly designed mix of fabrics and color. I'm not going for perfection. I'm going for an expression of me and my husband and our life together. So in my bedroom, I can count on one hand almost the things that I have in my bedroom. I have 2 different pictures of myself and my husband at kind of fun times in our lives together that inspire good memories. Neither of them is all that recent, which I should probably remedy, but one reminds us of a time before kids, which is always fun. And then we have a piece of artwork on either side of the bed. One are prints an artist friend of mine made that spell love in 3 different languages. I have an altar in my bedroom. My bedroom is in the abundance or wealth corner of my home, and my altar represents the abundance I want in my life and also in my relationship. You know, one of the things on that altar is a little bird's nest in a bowl, and inside I have 2 heart rocks. I don't have one, I have 2. And that's about it. You know, my husband collects magazines on his side of the bed until one of us culls through them, and I keep a jewelry box on my side. We have a chair with a lamp because we have this space and we needed a place for the chair, but as soon as I moved it there, I loved it. It has the same leather that my dad had our headboard upholstered in, and it feels right. My only challenge is to keep errant clothing off it. There is no right amount of stuff for any one person, but this is my right amount of stuff for me in my bedroom. It creates a space that feels automatically relaxing. When you clear out your space, you gain clarity in your life, in what's important to you. One woman I worked with, after she cleared out her bedroom, she said, "I'm remembering my old self. I haven't been playing my guitar for the past few years, but now I see my guitars. There is less in the way, and I know I will get to them. I will make the time to play them again." It's powerful to take one place in your house and make it a calm retreat, at least until the rest of your home is able to feel this way. With my students, we pause while we're in the midst of going through all the categories in the KonMari process to create an oasis in the bedroom. It's so helpful and beneficial to our bodies to create a space where we can fully relax, particularly when we're doing so much work in our other spaces and they might be a little more chaotic. My student who had the Jenga puzzle of books on her bedside table, she was so excited about creating her bedroom oasis that she stayed up, I think, until 2 in the morning to finish it up. She has kids, she's a mom with kids. And in the morning, her kids were so excited to come in and see her bedroom oasis. And they realized they wanted their own spaces to have that feeling, to give them that energy. They weren't necessarily interested in going through their stuff always, but they wanted that feeling. And the next night, her 8-year-old came in the middle of the night and she just wanted to get back to sleep. So she ushered him up into bed. And as he was falling asleep, he said, "Ah, your oasis." The effect this process has on your space is noticeable. It's enlightening, and it also has an effect on the people around you. Clearing out your space allows you to put your past and your present in order. One of my students says, "Tidying has affected every area of my life. As I tidied my space, I feel like I've tidied up lots of areas of my life. It feels like a metaphor for really deeply cleaning old patterns and habits that no longer serve me." Living that life you dream of in your home is totally achievable, and it's something you can control. You can set yourself up to maintain a stable relationship and quality sleep. And you today have taken that first step by coming to this workshop. And I will also say that while you can access this supported life, it's not going to happen on its own. It takes that awareness to realize what you want, what you need. And it takes the willingness and the motivation to take that next step. And it takes that diligence and that works to continue down that path. So that brings me back to the story of our friends who would come and visit every year, and how the inertia and passivity in their space came to reflect this passivity and lethargy in their relationship. So I encourage you all right now to think of one thing that you can't wait to shift in your home, in your space, in your bedroom, because beginning that process will bring you energy to continue. When you are ready to delve deeper into this journey, one way to do that, to take that next step in applying what you've learned today, is to sign up for a free strategy session that I'm offering to those of you who made the time to be here. This is a 30-minute phone call with me. It's an $80 value. And I must say that I really love the strategy sessions that I have with people. We're able to really delve into your specific challenges that you're up against, how well your space is supporting you currently or isn't. I'll take the time to get that clarity with you, to figure out what opportunities are keeping you from your next level of growth, from more satisfying relationships to reliable health to better sleep. It's that clarity that allows you to move one step closer to taking command of your home and your life, to creating a space that reflects the person you are today and who you want to become, rather than holding you in the past. A space that inspires you on a daily basis, that supports and embraces you. Not just a bedroom that you can retreat to, but an entire home that you love and are proud of. You should sign up now. I encourage you to sign up now while it's on your mind, while it seems really important. I obviously can't talk with everyone here, but I'll talk with 5 people this week. So if you're ready to gain clarity and confidence in your life through taking a deeper look at your space, be sure to apply for a spot. You can do that by visiting my website, www.tpkfengshui.com. And at the end of the webinar, your screen should also redirect there, where you can sign up to do a strategy session with me. So right now, I want to open up the floor to any questions that you all might have. Again, there's a delay in the chat bar, so it's going to take a minute to come through if I do have any questions coming in. So I wanted to touch on on a commonly asked question, a question that I commonly see while I'm waiting for any chat bar activity here. And, one question that I commonly hear is, what about kids' bedrooms, right? So, that in and of itself is a whole other talk that I will do someday. But that being said, the principles that you see here are the same principles that you want to apply in a kid's bedroom. That being said, you can have slightly more activity in a kid's bedroom and it won't be totally detrimental. You can have their toys in there. Again, that being said, one of the areas, one person that I lean on heavily in my course and in my work is Kim John Payne, who wrote Simplicity Parenting, and he talks about how not only kids but kids, how they're experiencing in all of his research found that they were what's the word I'm looking for? They were showing signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, except it was in the present. It was from their spaces, it was from their environment. He has these 5 different things that it's from, but it's primarily environment. It's environment and screen time and rhythm in their lives. So he has these things, but he offers up either a year or 2 of therapy with him, or one day where he comes in armed with big black trash bags and they go into children's rooms and, even, I'm not 100% sure how old the children can be to do this, because once kids get to be teenagers, their spaces can really be their oases. And I can imagine the hurt that would happen if you went into a teenager's room and did this, but you go into the space, and as a parent, it's really your responsibility what their space looks like. And you go in and you pull out all these toys, and he's really looking at, he lists a certain kind of category of toys that have very short lifespans of use for kids. And it's particularly the toys that are not movable, the toys that you can't change, those like molded plastic toys. And in my work, I really eliminate as much plastic as possible around the entire home, but in kids' bedrooms in particular. And, in my own kids' room, I have a big tub of Legos that sits in there. It's not like I've gotten rid of all of my plastic toys in my home, but most plastic toys do not stay in my home. Any toy that has a battery does not stay in my home. And that is one way to really change a child's behavior, to really create this stress-free environment. It's really important. So again, the kids' bedroom will be another workshop sometime, and it's a big can of worms, but that's a question that I get really commonly from people. And I'm not seeing any other questions come in. Let me just reload my room here and make sure that nothing else is coming in. So I want to thank you all for being here tonight, for making the time. It's been really fun to talk with you and tell you all about how to create that bedroom oasis. If you have any questions that come up over the course of the next week, because I feel like sometimes it takes a little while to percolate, don't hesitate to contact me at tpkfungshui@gmail.com. I love to hear what people are thinking about and what really resonates for them, what they found really useful in this type of thing. So don't hesitate to be in touch with me. And again, if you have specific questions about your space, signing up for a strategy session is a really great way for me to look at the specifics of your space. So with that, signing off for your bedroom, your everyday oasis. Thanks so much.